Okay, you can start. Okay.
Okay, I will start now. Hello, everybody. I am Valeriu, and together with my colleague Gustavo, will present you the Telrad migration to CBRS procedure. I think we shall wait a couple of minutes to see if anybody else will join.
Valeria, you did not do the start broadcast.
Sorry?
Please.
Oh, okay. Start broadcast. Okay. Sorry. Hello, everybody. I am Valeriu, and together with my colleague Gustavo, will present you the Telrad migration to CBRS procedure. I think we can wait 1 or 2 minutes just to give everybody a chance to join.
Okay, let's do the following. Let's merge it.
Okay, hello again. Thank you for attending this webinar. As I said, my name is Valeriu. And next we will see how to migrate the existing networks to CBRS. This is a required procedure for all existing networks operating in 3.5 and 3.6 gigahertz band in the United States. So this is a required procedure for only for United States. Today, during this presentation, we will cover these topics. First, a short overview of CBRS, the list of prerequisites needed before migrating any existing network to CBRS using BreezeView. BreezeView will act as a domain proxy. What is a domain proxy we will see later. It is described by the CBRS standard and the SAS protocol. We will also see how to manage CBSDs, which are the radio devices, using BreezeView. How the certified professional installer performs signing of CBSD installation parameters. This is a required procedure before registering the devices with the SAS server. We will also discuss the list of CBSD parameters, the most important ones, and their usage, any other SAS-related issues, and in the end, we will talk a bit about troubleshooting various problems related to CBRS. The next few slides will offer a generic view of CBRS components, the architecture, and our Telrad solution. First, we need to understand what is CBRS. It stands for the Citizen Broadband Radio Service, and it opens up 150 megahertz of the spectrum in the 3.5 gigahertz band. We see in the picture the frequency limits. This spectrum will be used as a shared spectrum. CBRS was established in 2000.
This model and per topology, and per bandwidth, what is the maximum and minimum EIRP that you can configure it. Let's put, for example, the first row. It's compact with let's select with topology. All the first row, it's the topology with the 2 transmissions ports, like a default topology. And if we can work in 20 megahertz channel, so the range is between 24 to 34 dBm per megahertz. This is the parameters that you need to configure it. And from the CPE, it's agnostic to the specific topology, and you have the values. This values comes together with in the next slides. We see the antenna beamwidth, the antenna gain, and the cable loss. These are the typical values for the devices and antennas. Of course, if you use another antenna in the compact, you need to specify the parameters of the antenna. So continuing, this is the range of the installation parameters. Reminder that the installation parameter must be configured by the CPI, and then they are signed by the CPI using its certificate. If any of these parameters is changed because any reason, it must be resigned again, because the signed before was invalid because some parameters change. So this is the parameters. The first two is the GPS coordinates. It must be located in US. Put attention that this the longitude is negative because it's in US. The next parameter is the height, which is the height of the antenna, but it's in meters. It's not in feet. This is part of the CBRS standards. The specification is in meters. Okay, the antenna, the height type is 2 options. One is to put the AGL, that means average ground level, which is the most normal and default. And the other is the sea level, which is also can be used. The currency of the GPS coordinate, it's about 15 meters. In the case of indoor deployment, because mostly of those CPE is outdoor, it should be selected outdoor. And the gain of the antenna is in the table that we see some moment before. It's the parameters, the same than the beamwidth. So this installation parameters are the range. Okay. So in next slides, we will work about how SAS work, how SAS protect high priority tires, how SAS CPAS affect your network, the reason for why a grant can be suspended. Okay. About how SAS works, SAS is a cloud of service, which is the SAS provider and FCC. Okay, and the target of the SAS is protect the high priorities, the high tires, in order to no interference with the low priorities. This is the main SAS target. They provide frequency, but with we're trying to protect the different high priorities. A CBRS device is called a CBSD and need to be authorized by the SAS before start to transmitting. Okay, this is the one of the rule of the standard. You cannot transmit if you are not the grant. This is very basic. Okay, there is a little exception of that, which is the work for the CPE, because the CPE, in order to transmit, need to receive over there the grant. So the protocol accept the CPE transmit with low power and only management information during the CPE is not granted, just in order to receive the authorization. But in general, you need authorization to transmit. As Valerio mentioned, all the transaction is start with domain proxy. Domain proxy requires something, and SAS respond. Different type of response, positive, negative, or another ones. All the standard is it's handled by the WIN forum, okay, which is especially the standard between the CBSD and the SAS. There is another standard that is communication between SAS and communication between SAS and FCC that is not part of us. So basically, our domain proxy, which is the preview, requests a grant to receive some spectrum to use. If the grant is approved, CBSD just periodically send her bits to keep the grant. This is happen every a little less than 4 minutes. This is part of the timer of the standard. So domain proxy send for each CBSD the herbit. If you want to CBSD to what the fuck? The CBSD do not work more, you need to relinquish the grant. Okay, next slide. Okay, how SAS protect high priority users? They perform different activities. One of them is calling CPAS, which is a coordination, okay, between the SAS. They do every night, starting at midnight in Pacific time, and can take a few hours. They exchange information for each SAS and make calculation in order to adjust their location in order to protect what they want to protect. Basically, they want to protect the incumbents. The incumbents as the tier one. One of the main incumbents is all the military transmissions. Okay, so this is the high priorities that they want to protect. Currently, they not the SAS system do not protect between the customers or the providers that are in the same level. So if you are an ISP, they not protect between ISP and the others. This is a new technology and it's improving all the weeks. They are in the process to handle this situation, but right now, unless they are not doing in a fully way. And there are other quiet zones, okay? There is not only protect the military, there are some zones that is called quiet or protected. Like especially in the coast, there is some rules in order to protect all the radars that use the army. Okay, the next slide. Okay, and so how the process of this CPAS might affect your network. They, as I mentioned, they relocate resources. Basically, they not try to, if there is a grant already in use, they not want the algorithms not want to release the grant. But if they need to protect something, the most common is the request to reduce the power. Okay, or maybe the request to change the channel, or just reject it. So so in case of you install a new device, ask for the grant, currently the SAS, what they doing, it's make something like a simple or fast calculation. If they can provide the grant immediately, they will provide the grant immediately, and later at night, they do all the calculation to be sure that the grant provider it's okay. If the simple calculation that they do based on the information is not there's not enough to provide the grant, they put the grant in suspend mode, and you need to wait at night when CPAS process run to obtain the grant or not. Okay. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the reason why the grant can be suspended. Okay, there is another process called EIRP. So if there is they need to calculate in some interface, because the EIRP in this case you need to wait a time, because they are calculating the EIRP pending. Okay, so it's a pending activity. Maybe the EIRP pending will provide a new operation parameters. All this information is transported in the protocol by a text message, and we try to display this message in the breeze view, in the WI or in the command line, both. In case of the SAS detect that it's happening especially in special areas. If there is some incumbent that is doing something and they need to suspend the grant, they can suspend it. Maybe they can suspend it for a few hours or something. It's happened especially in special areas. Okay, let's talk about the versions to use with the SAS. This is for the breeze view. We are in the process to improve the breeze view, to have new features and to fix small problems currently. So please, if you want to deploy, contact Telrad by email or open a case in Sendex, and we will advise what is the best breeze view version to use at this moment. Okay. For NOV, which is the compact, the version 7.7.0, it's okay for use with CBRS. It's not necessary to upgrade to 7.2, which is 7.2. It's only suggested to use in case you use a new features like multi-user MIMO or carrier aggregation. EPC 2020 is not a radio device. It's not a part of CBRS because it's a network device. So it's not. It's agnostic about the version to use. And for the CPE, we are also releasing a version that supports CBRS. It's mandatory to upgrade the CPE to the CBRS. So please consult with us about the CPE model and CPE version to use. Okay. Next slide, we will talk about some errors and who action we can do in order to handle the errors. This is the errors. We have the first column is the error code. The second column is what it means. The third column is the action that we should recurrent, and some notes in the last column. Let's start with the first version, the code 100. It's an error that came from something in the protocol is not the understanding and basic communication. So please note that the current protocol version is v1.2 with v small letters. This is the typical error. Okay. 101 is related to the blacklist. So you need to contact the SAS why is in the blacklist. The code 102, it's missing parameters. Some parameters in the configuration, maybe in the installation parameters, are missing. So maybe because someone forget to configure something and they will reject it. Sometimes in the message that rejected, the SAS say, okay, the missing parameter is I don't know, longitude. Okay, and the why, what is the missing parameters? If the parameter is invalid because it's out of range or something, they will reject with the parameters 103. All these error appear during the registration phase of the CBSD. Continuing with the errors, the error certificate 104 is about certificate error. It's as Valerio explained, there is some certificate and must be something related with the certificate. 105 is about the registration. In this case, will be necessary to investigate a little. 106, it's about to resend. For any reason, the SAS cannot process the request, and they request to send again. Okay, it's we never saw this error. Okay, 300 is unsupported spectrum because you are off the spectrum, or this spectrum is not availability. The 400 is interference. That means that it's a ground reject or ground suspend. It's related to the reason is interference. So in this case, what we can do is reduce the power or change the channel, or if is part of the pending process, CPAS or EIRP, you need to wait to it. 401 is ground conflict. It should not happen. If happens, will be need to be investigated. Okay. Next. 500 is terminate grant, which is, it should not happen because the SAS usually suspend the grant, not terminate. But if you are in a very high protected area, maybe the SAS provide the terminate grant, and they usually provide a reason. Okay, and 501 is suspended grant. This is suspended grant means that temporarily you need to stop transmission, maybe because they are doing the calculation or they are doing the AIP pending, which is part of the CPAS. Reminded that the SAS protect the high priority users. What you can do it's reduce the power, move the channel, or wait for receive the grant. Okay. And the last error is some problem with the synchronization of the parameters. It should not happen. It's happened. We need to investigate. This is part of the standard errors. Okay. Connectivity failures between the SAS and the domain proxy. It's very important, the connectivity between the bridge view and the SAS, which is through internet, because they are exchange heartbeat request, heartbeat answer all the time. The current standard put the timer in less than 4 minutes. So if the heartbeat fail, the domain proxy by standard need to shut down the transmission of the device. This is a very critical problem. So of course, if one heartbeat failed, there was a process to retransmission. But if the connectivity failed because I don't know, link failure or some problem in internet or whatever happens, so there is a timer that is by standard, and if there is no recover in this 4 or 5 minutes, the device must be to put in shutdown. So it's very, very important to understand this and to take all the most as possible in order to avoid this problem. Okay. In case of permanent connection problem, maybe it's because the SAS URL or something. This has happened when you set up the bridge view the first time, only the first time. So the first time you need to put the URL, the certificates, use CPID, do UID, and make a check connection as Valerio showed before. Next. Okay. One typical comment is to put the SAS protocol, some mistake that it happens, that reminded that is a B1.2 with B small letters. Okay, we are on time. This is one hour and a half session, very long. But in this section, you have a frequently asked question that is also in our portal about what means different names and what is the target for different names. Okay, let's go to this to the second explanation. What is Tier 1? Tier 1 is the federal government, which means basically mostly the army on satellites. Okay, and Tier 2 it's called Priority Access List, a licensee or PAL, which is the user that votes and pays some money for access to the spectrum. And the Tier 3 is the general availability, which is the user that only want to access to the spectrum and they only pay for the time they use it. It's not part of the permanent license. Ever you use all the days for years, but it's not an auction. Next. Okay. Let's. It's important to know that there is a network of sensors to detect some frequency, but take in consideration that this is in the process to deploy, basically in some part of the coast, and the target is to detect radars, not other signals, just radars. This is part of this information that the SAS receive in order to know which signal is in a specific area. Okay, what's next? Okay, this is more or less already explained, and there is more information on our portal, and of course in internet about all this all the CBRS. Okay, let's go to the next. This is a little you can find in the web some specific areas in United States that is some protection. As I mentioned, there is protection in the coast. There is protection in the Canada border with some rules that you can read it. There is some really quiet zone that is rejected any registration. Compared with the whole United States territory, this is very small, but there exist these areas. There is some for the island. There is some also some rules on some part of the spectrum. It's restricted or available. So you need to check in your area. Also, you can check with the SAS, and you can check in a map, which is if you have close to this any of this situation or not. Okay, basically this is the long presentation. Please, you have an option to send some question, and we will wait some minutes. If there is question, we will try to reply.
Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you all for attending. As Gustavo said, we will wait a bit. I saw that there is a question about making available the slides. Yes, we will provide them via email to all of you. So we just wait a bit for any more questions. Okay, thank you again, everybody, and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Again, the question about the presentation, as we said, it will be sent via email. Okay, goodbye.